So, hi everyone. Welcome to the webinar on how to crack a project management interview. So, this entire webinar is gonna help you how you can crack a next project management interview and what are the things that you need to take care of, what are the things that you need to learn, and what are the steps that you need to follow pre-interview and post-interview. So, we're gonna deep dive through all these things throughout this 1 hour, and the format is going to be like first 60 minutes I'm going to cover the whole the all the entire points that I want to talk to you, and the last 30 minutes is going to be entirely on Q&A. Although I did post the queries whichever I have received till now, which I have already covered in the PPT also, but if required we'll again go ahead and discuss the same during the Q&A session. And now, yeah, just a little bit about me. I have a like 5 years of experience in the IT industry. I did my BTech and then I started working as a software tester in University Global, and then I quit my job and went ahead to pursue my PGDM. And after that, my entire focus has been shifted to project management. And so after MBA, it's completely project management. So I have had the opportunity to work in different startups, and then I'm currently working with Dell as a project manager. So I do have pretty much a lot of experience into how a project has been managed in a startup as well as in a corporate. So with all this knowledge, I started writing on LinkedIn, and then LinkedIn has awarded me a top voice this year. So that is a professional like creator journey of what I have been doing till now. Next, let me walk you through how our webinar's agenda or like structure is going to be. So first I'm going to walk you through a self-reflection section, which I personally feel that no one really give much emphasis when they are starting to prepare for their interview. And the entire session is going to be completely on research and prepare. These are the two things that we are going to talk about. Okay, and then I'm going to help you with how you can structure your answers with star method, which is actually very popular and I'm pretty much sure that everyone knows now. And then some interview questions, and then what you need to know after post interview, and like two resources that you can help you during your project management interview sessions. Now, I just want to tell you this, okay? So, I do coach people with respect to, cracking their jobs, be it in the job search strategies or interview preparation. So, most probably everyone has this one, self doubt that are they good enough to go ahead and crack the interview. Now, you need to understand one thing. If the company has given you an interview call letter, right? That means the interviewer knows that you have the skills to do the job. Now, the only thing that you need to do is go ahead and perform well in the interview and crack the job. That's it. So the the major part of getting the interview call is one thing. Once the interview call is received, everything is going to be in your hand, right? And yeah, next, as I mentioned, it's all gonna be on research section and prepare. What are the things that you need to research when you're gonna prepare for your interview, and how well you can prepare for your interview is what we are gonna talk about now. Self reflection. So this is one mistake that most of us do, like not doing a self reflection or self assessment, like reflecting on your past experiences actually help you to pinpoint examples that demonstrate your qualifications for that particular job. So what happens is like it allows you to select those specific instances or examples where you have successfully managed your project, or resolved conflicts, or even maybe demonstrated leadership. So by reflecting on the job description that you have received, also the requirements, you can better align your skills and experiences. And this is what the employer, your current employer, is also looking onto you. So it actually, like, what does self reflection help? Self reflection equips you with the self awareness, confidence, and ability to showcase your qualification effectively, which actually increases the chances of you succeeding that particular interview, right? So this alignment is essential in demonstrating that you are actually a suitable fit for the position and for the organization as well. Now, how do you do the self reflection is the next question that you might have. So now I have like a four questions that I want you to take a note of. So these, like let's say today, let's suppose Chandini received a project management interview for next week. The first thing I would actually suggest you to do is take a piece of paper or maybe like a notebook, write down these four questions. Okay, why did you apply to this company? How does your past experience make you the right fit for the job? Why this job, and what was it about that the role that you attracted towards, and why do you want this job now? Like, just write four of these questions. Now, it like this exercise is going to take maybe like 20 minutes when you start doing, like for the when once you receive the interview calls. Now let me just give you a brief on all these questions and how you can do it better. Now let's say, taking the first question. So, what is it about this particular form that makes it right for you? Right, that is something that you need to understand first. And I want you to write only one or two sentences for all these questions, not as answers, not like a paragraph or essay. Just two sentences, giving your self reflection, and this is going to help you to crack the interview overall. And what aspects of this company stand out to you? Also, what are the values or achievements of the company that resonate with your professional goals, right? Now, give me a minute, 1 second. uh, 1 second. Mm, let me reshare. I was just okay, right? Now, next, how does your past experiences makes you the right fit for this job? Now this is a very crucial question, because consider the unique experiences and skill sets that you have acquired till now. Okay, let's suppose you don't have a job experience, then what? So you might be having a lot of experience in your college, or like maybe any volunteer services, or let's just say that you have done some birthday, you have arranged a birthday celebration, or even you have volunteered at some organization. Make sure to count all these experiences when you go ahead and prepare for an interview, right? So what specific strengths and qualities do you possess that align with the requirements of this particular job, right? And also think about your past achievements, like how do they relate to the responsibilities of this particular role, right? All this actually reflect you to craft a great story for you to narrate during the interview process. Now, why this job, and what was it about the role that attracted you? Okay, this is something that I want you to take some time to explore with. Like, understand what are the responsibilities and potential growth opportunities that are associated with this particular role that you have. Now, for this, what you can do is, make sure you go through the JD properly, and if you have any doubts, write them down. Okay, when you get the chance to ask these questions to the interviewer, make sure that you utilize those particular time period to ask these doubts. So reflect on what really excites you on this particular position. So for example, I recently last month I had an interview with Accenture on a particular job. Okay, so that, with respect to project management, so I have the JD has something that I have not worked upon. So that was completely on a particular uh, requirement with regards to organization level. So that role really uh, uh, contribute a lot on the organization level, so that really excited me, and I had a lot of questions to ask to my interviewer with respect to that. So that is how you prepare for the interview when it comes to researching part also. Now, why do you want this job now? This is a question that you need to prepare of, because most probably if you are planning to jump or if you had a career break, right, this is one question that your interviewer is also going to ask you. So reflect on what is the current career stage that you are in now, and how does this particular job aligns with your career goals. So when you are trying to bridge the gap between these two, it will help you to understand how you can successfully complete the interview and grab this opportunity. Now, okay, are you able to see the slide?
Yes, Mary, I can see it.
Okay, now what to research. Okay, so uh, mainly four things. First is the company, then comes the role, then interviewer, and then industry. Now, what should you be researching on all these four things, right? When it comes to the company, make sure that you are researching on the mission statement, their vision statement, their values. Go to their about page. Also, check for the news on the company. Check for if they have any recent achievements or milestones or even any awards that they have received. Now, how is this going to help you with, as I mentioned towards the end, see, interview is always not a single channel communication. It's like a two-way communication, right? So you are going to the interviewer and talking, and the interviewer also wants to communicate. And once you build a rapport between you and your interviewer, that's when the chances of you get converting the interview into a job offer is higher. So once you understand the like company, the role, the interviewer, that will give you higher chances of converting the offer. So that is why you also need to make sure that you know the company, and also be updated on the recent activities that is happening over the company. Now, next, coming to the role, the best way to understand the role is go over the job description, as I mentioned earlier. Now, let's say you need to understand what are the key skills that are there in the job description. So let's say the job description that you have received has like 2 3 pages. Okay, how are you going to analyze them, right? That's going to be a question mark. So for that, you can just go ahead to the Google and search for word cloud generator, right? So word cloud, if you go to the word cloud generator and cut copy paste your job description to that particular tool, there will be a word cloud generated with respect to the job description, and you can take 2 to 5 main keywords and make sure that you are re-emphasizing these 5 to 7 keywords throughout your interview. So the more that you speak about these keywords, the more the chance that the interviewer is understanding that, oh yeah, this particular student, I mean this particular person has understood what the role is about, right? Now, let's say in any job description, you'll be having 3 sets of skill sets. First thing is the essential or must have skills. The next is the technical skills, and next is the soft skills. So when you go and see in the project management, like any project management job description, right, the skills can be broadly divided into these three. There are chances that you may see a technical or may not, because it completely depends. So let's say if the interview that you're going to be part of is for a PMO role, so PMO roles doesn't really have a lot of technical skills. Like, they might be needing someone who wants to coordinate a document. That would be the techniques that's going to be acting over there. And if, let's say, you're going to go ahead and go for a software development project, so it actually varies from project to project. So if the position has been open for a software development project, the chances are that you might need to know the SDLC. You might need to know what are how is like what are the different things that are there in software development. So all these things need to be known. So chances are that these might be written in the job description, or you these are like a hidden things that you need to understand and go ahead and prepare for the same. Now, Another thing that I can tell you is look for the similar job in your competitors' company. So let's say if you're applying for a company X, see for the company Y, let's call the Y, who is a competitor of company X, and see do they have a similar role in that particular company. If they do have, what are the roles and responsibility that that particular role has, and how is it different from here? Now, that what is gonna like how this is gonna help you is you'll understand one how the two companies are working, how it is different, and two how you coming into that particular role is going to help the company achieve something that is not there in the other company, right? Now, next coming to the interviewer, how do you research an interview? Best thing is go to Google or LinkedIn, search for your interviewer's name. Now, how do you find? There is one more thing that happens is like many times the interviewer's name is not known to you, right? So what you can do is when you receive your interviewer in like interview call letter, right? Reply back them with a thank you letter, thanks for inviting me for the interview. I would like to know who I'll be interviewing. I'm like, who will be my interviewer? Now, I don't think like I have done this in the past. Like for the past 1 2 years, I have been replying to the emails and I have been getting the interviewers' LinkedIn IDs. So every company is now open to share the who the interviewer is. They are completely okay. So what you can do is once you receive their LinkedIn IDs, go to their LinkedIn page and understand if they have a website or have they received any awards or any patents that they have there in their name, or websites or any articles or even any recent posts that they have posted. Try to understand their work experience, also their educational background. Now what happens is like, as I mentioned, right, we are going to interview for conversations. Now when you go ahead and make conversations, you need to have like a personal touch in it. So if they are giving you some scenarios and asking questions, the chance when you get to ask them back the questions, right? Don't go ahead and ask something from the interviewer, like the interview time period. Just go ponder a little about their background and ask them, oh, I've seen that you come from a different education background and then you have shifted to project management. Why did you do that? Like what was the what made you change your trajectory like that? So when we try to understand our interview or a personal level, or like a yeah, in a personal level, it will give that advantage for us to convert our interview into a successful one. Now, industry. How do you research the industry? The best method is go for a pestle analysis. Understand what are the things that is happening in the industry with respect to like political, economical, all those aspects, and try to have some 1 or 2 points on how your role can contribute to those particular pointers. Okay. Now, so I did mention about all those set of skills, right? I did talk about the essential or must have skills, the technical skills, and soft skills. Now I wanted to pay attention to this particular slide, which talks about power skills. Now, as you can see, this is nothing but PMI talent triangle. So project management institute always comes with a talent triangle which says that three main skills that any of the project managers required are these three. So earlier it used to be like technical project management, leadership, strategic, and business management. But then here we know that Corona happened, and there are so many ways. I mean, like the ways that we were working and the how we were managing projects have drastically changed. Like we know like we were working from home, then hybrid work, all those happens. So the PMI talent triangle also evolved. Now we have waves of working, power skills, and business acumen. Let me quickly walk you through all three of them. I'm having this slide only because when you go for any interview, right, you need to make sure that three of these pointers are being covered when you create your scenarios, right? Now, what does ways of working means? It's like, let's say you are working in a productive like waterfall method, the current project is in waterfall method, or let's say it's in agile method, or let's say it's like it can be hybrid, or maybe any design thinking method, or any new practices. So there are practices, or methodologies can come and go, it can vary, it can have like multiple things that can happen in your project. But you need to be clear that you apply the right technique to the right at the right time to the right project. So it's not like you can go ahead and mix and match everything together for one project. You need to understand how these different methodologies or different ways of working are gonna be different for these different projects. So that basic understanding needs to be there. Next, coming to power skills. So power skills is nothing but your interpersonal skills. So why do we need power skills? It's basically because you need to maintain the influence with the variety of stakeholders. So I'll just explain you power skills detail in the next slides. Now, business acumen. Business acumen is nothing but understanding how your project is gonna help the company in a bigger picture. It's not just managing or as we said micromanaging your single project, but you're gonna give a broader organization strategy on how this particular project can uh, give a organizational emphasis. Now I'm gonna take a pause right here. I just wanted to understand, are we clear till now? Is there any questions that you have on these slides so that I can take it up?
Yeah, it's clear till now, Mary.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, let me go ahead and again, let's go with the baskets. Now, coming to essential skills. So, now as I mentioned, right, the power skills is nothing but it contains essential skills, also leadership skills. Now, I want you to listen, like actively on these essential skills and also the leadership styles, because all the project management interviews are gonna be on scenario based questions. There is only very 5 to 10% chances of you getting proper theoretical interview questions during the process. So let's say you are leading a team of yeah, let's say you are leading a software development project team of 10 engineers. Now the team has been working on a new feature for the past 2 months, and the deadline is approaching. So during a team meeting, an engineer told that there is a concern that the feature may not be ready on time with the deadline. Now, let me just walk you through how all these essential skills are gonna play a proper how these skills are gonna play a part when it comes to managing the project. Now, say active listening. So you give the engineer the full attention and understand what is the concern that the particular person is reaching, and then you clarify the questions to make sure that they understand their perspective. Okay, that's how the active listening part comes. Now coming to communication. So now you understand clearly what is the problem that has occurred. So you have to communicate this properly to the other stakeholders that there may or may not have a delay with respect to the deadline. Next, coming to the conflict management. So let's say, okay, you understand that okay, there might be a chance of delay in our deadline. So you have to like the client, from the client side, you might be telling there might be pressure to deliver it in the correct time. So you need to make sure that both the sides are being proper, and you have to make them understand that okay, let's say, see, this particular feature is gonna have play a crucial role for the product that we are going to launch. So if you want us to not launch that particular feature without launch the product without the particular feature, we are okay to do it. But I think if you can give us maybe like 1 day of time, we'll be able to do. So the conflict management part also comes into play. Now comes the emotional intelligence. So you cannot just go, I mean, you are the manager. You cannot just go ahead and ask your team member to work extra hours, or put in a lot of efforts, and ask the other members to come and put in a lot of hard work in place of others. So you have to be emotionally fit with each of your teams, and manage the rest of the team also, and make sure that you build trust within the team. Next, as I mentioned, negotiation, right? When it comes to client's part, or if it comes to a project sponsors part, you have to negotiate your how the project is being, how you can the deadline can be moved left or right with respect to the feature being there or not. Now you need to ask the coming to the problem solving skills, you need to ask the engineer how this problem can be resolved. Like, do we need additional time, or can we done it in the same time with putting extra resources on the same thing? Can we do it? So try to understand how we can solve the particular problem. Now, teamwork. We all know what teamwork is, and I don't think I have to explain it further. Now let me walk you through the leadership styles. Now I've given like 8 leadership styles that are there. This is completely given from the PMI side also. So let's just say you are making a new product. So how do you manage these different leadership styles when you are in a project, when you are managing your project? So I'm just gonna walk you through that, and make sure you have all these scenarios set in when you go in your interviews also. Now, first is coaching. So let's say that the product that you're developing is something very new to the company, and people are also not very aware of what are the things that are, they know the requirement, but they might be not knowing everything from scratch on how to build that particular product. So how do you coach them? You actually coach your team members by providing the training and resources that are required for this particular product to develop, right? Now, how do you delegate them? So let's say that this particular product requires some designing for the user experience. So in that particular case, you can just ask if there are any skill set that you have already done, right? In that particular skill set, if you see that there is someone who has already knowledge on UI or UX, you can assign this particular task or delegate this particular task to that person who already have a UI or UX design experience. Now comes directing. So you need to provide clear instructions and give them the deadlines that are required, right? So you might direct your team members on how to perform a critical safety test for this particular product. Now, how do you become a host leadership? And now you might have you need to address the problems that are there in your team, or you need to give support to your team with the resources that are required. Now, for example, you can host your weekly meeting to discuss how the project has been progressed, and also to identify any potential roadblocks that are there. Now, how do you become a servant leadership? So serving means just to make sure that you are focusing not only to their how they are contributing to the project, also to their personal growth or professional growth, and also their well-being. So how do you do that? You need to make sure that they take adequate breaks. Also, you encourage them to upskill within the time frame, all those things. Now, how do you provide support? Like, supporting means, for me, it's always is one-on-one, right? Like, you go to your manager and talks that these are some problems that I'm facing now, can you help me with it? And your manager supports you and give you the direction on how the give you the guidance on how you can go about with the problem. So your one-on-ones are the best example when it comes to supporting leadership. Now comes the transactional and transformational. So transactional is nothing but how we say teachers, right? Like, if you do a good job, I'm going to give you a sweet. If you don't, I'm going to give you like a beating. So similarly, how we say is like transactional leadership is like, if you might offer like a bonus when they are performing or when they are meeting the goals, or you might give them warnings when for if missing the deadlines, but in a polite way, not like very rationally. Now, transformational is when you grow with them, right? So you have to share to the team member why the product that you're developing is required now, and how is it gonna help the transformation of your company or organization itself. Now, okay. Now, before going to the next part of preparing, now this is the last section of research, right? You can call it a both research and prepare. Now, why would I say go to topics? So these, be it you're going for any project management interview, these are some basics that you need to know before going for the interview. Like when I say basics, it's like how you go for any interview with maybe in 10th or 12th, you need to know at least the 8th standard or 10th standard basic subjects, so that you know what is happening in the next. So it's that basic level of understanding of what project management is required. And let me just walk you through what I meant by all these pointers. Now, first is project management methodology. Now, when we say methodologies, right, we all know it's waterfall or agile or scrum. So you need to be very sure of how each of this, like what are the pros and cons of using waterfall, what are the pros and cons of using agile, and what are the pros and cons of using scrum or any other methodologies. Like, and when is it most appropriate to use? Like we all go and say, okay, when we say waterfall, it's just the step by step process, or agile is where you become very agile and you have the sprints and scrum. No, that's not, sorry, that's not the way to answer it. You need to be very sure why do we use particular methodologies, and when do we use it particular methodologies for what particular kind of programs or projects. Now, next is project management life cycle. So we all know project management life cycle is nothing but like initiation phase, planning phase, execution phase, monitoring and control, and closing. Now, for all these five stages, you need to be sure of what are the things that goes into the picture when it comes to managing projects. So when I say that, let's say you are managing or you are currently a part of a project, so make sure you have been there for all these five stages of the project, and you're attending, like you are preparing for the interview in that manner. Now also I want you to be very pay attention to the planning part. Why? Because a lot of project management interviews actually ask a lot on the questions on the planning the project. So when I say planning the projects, what all things does it include? First thing is defining the project scope and how to set goals and objectives. Like what are the difference between scope, goal, and objective when it comes to a project, and also how do you create a project schedule, and how do you develop a budget. So just have a sample project. If you are working on something right now, maybe it's okay, or if you don't, maybe like take a, if you are applying for an IT job, let's say just development of a website project. So what are the different things that are required in the scheduling? What are different things that require in the budgeting part? Just make sure to have some amount of idea before you go through the interview. Next is the risk management. Now, you should be able to discuss the steps involved in risk management. So, as I mentioned, if you're going with an example of developing a software as your project, make sure to have a risk register on your mind. Like, what are the different risks that can happen when you're in the projects? Like, what are the different risks that can happen in the initiation phase? What can happen during the execution phase? What can happen in the controlling phase? So, make sure to have that distinction of different set of risk on each set of project management life cycle. And also make sure to have how do you identify the risk, and how do you assess each risk, like, and also the mitigation strategies for each of this risk. Next is the tool, technologies, and templates. Okay, now as I did mention about giving a lot of emphasis on the project planning phase. Now, so what are the some of the common project management tools that you use? Like you have Gantt chart, you have Kanban boards. So have you used them? Because most probably the questions, if you are very fresher or maybe like a less than 2 years of experience, the question will be directly, have you used them? So you cannot just, yeah, blindly go ahead and said that, yeah, I have used them and have no idea on that, right? So you have to maybe like, I'm not asking you to go ahead, download these tools, because I know most of them are going to be costlier, because MS Project is not very, they have like a limited period of access to the version. But after that, so just don't, I don't want you to go play around with all these tools, but at least have a basic idea of how this works by going through a YouTube video of something of that sort, so that this, like when it's asked, you have a fair amount of idea of how these tools are, right? It's not like it's like, when they are asking, it's like very new to you. So yeah, and also softwares like Jira, MS Project, and templates. Now I want you to have a, maybe like a piece of paper where you have all stages, as I mentioned, right? The initiation, planning, monitoring and control, execution, monitoring and control, and closure, and then have the templates for each of this life cycles. So let's say, for example, in initiation phase, you need a project charter. Also, you need a kickoff presentation, right? When it comes to planning, you need to make a risk register. You need to have a project schedule. You need to have what else? Like, what are the different templates that you need to have? So make sure to have a chart in your place, and do refer to them a day before your interview. So what happens is like, see, knowing there are so many templates when it comes to project management, right? And it actually differs with company to company. So in my current company, do they use RASI metrics for assessing the employees? They don't. But when you prepare for an interview, rasimetrists do really play a major chunk of assessing the employees, and how they're how we are assessing all each of these employees to their particular requirement. So all this plays a part. So you cannot just blindly go ahead and tell them, "Oh, I have not used them," because these are like very basics and you need to know. So make sure to have this mapping done with respect to the different project management life cycle, and also the tools and templates that are required in each of these phases. Now, coming to the last phase, communication and collaboration. Now, you see, as I mentioned, all the project management, as I earlier mentioned, right, all the project management interviews are gonna be a lot of chunk going to how you have done it earlier, because only then they will also be able to access you, how you are going to perform this particular project in future. So it's all gonna be on scenarios. So that is where your communication and collaboration really matters. So you need to be able to discuss on how you communicate with other stakeholders in project. So when I say communicate with, what are the different ways? One, you either mail or chat with them and understand and collect the responses and requirements, and then you give them progress updates. So how do you do all these things? You need to have a picture out of that. Next, how do you manage conflict? So as I mentioned earlier, right, have a scenario on your mind, like basically have an entire project on your mind, and then come up with different scenarios for all this, so that you can easily tell these scenarios, rather than making those scenarios in mind during the interview. Now, next is, how do you build rapport with the team members? So that is how the collaboration also plays a part. Now, I have one more thing to tell you with respect to the go to topic. So, as I mentioned earlier, right? So, if you are someone who's applying for a software development project management job, the chance of you asking them asking you a basic scenario of SDLC is higher. So, make sure that if it is mentioned in your JD, to have a fair amount of what does SDLC means, what are the different processes that are there, and also understand how it's gonna help you when it comes to managing the project. So just all those, like let's say you are going into a cloud technology. So what are the SaaS, PaaS, how does those differs? Just have a basic idea of whatever that has been mentioned in the JD before going to the interview. So yeah, before going to the structuring part, are we good till now? Good till here? Do we have any queries or questions?
Yeah, it's clear, Mary, now till here.
Great. Thanks, Jamil. Now going ahead with the how to structure your answer. So as I mentioned, right, like you're going with a lot with the scenario kind of questions that you'll be encountering. So when I say scenario kind of questions, it's completely on the behavioral interview session. So these questions need to be assessed, like why do they ask you all these scenarios and not like cut and write why what is because you are being in the position of a project manager, be it also in like if you're going interview for project coordinator. The idea of interviewing you is only because they need to know if a project is completely given to you, are you in a position to manage it from start to end, from scratch? What are the things that are required to delivering this particular project to the client? Are you capable of doing it? So that is the entire reason why we project managers get a lot of questions on the scenario based on how you have you done that, have you done this, what are the ways you manage conflicts, have you done risk analysis, how do you perform risk assessment. So all those questions, right? So the main reason is why you get all the scenarios based and not why you what, is because they wanted to make sure that the person that they're taking is capable of doing the project from the scratch and delivering it to the client in a 100% success rate. So in that particular cases, the best way to answer your question is by giving the star method. Now what does star method stands for? Star is the situation. So as I mentioned, like you need to have a lot of scenarios when you go for the interviews, right? So let's say situation means what was the situation you or your previous employer faced. Now task means what tasks were involved in that particular situation. Action means what actions did you take for that particular issue. Now what were those results for those actions? Now I'm going to walk you through 2 to 3 questions that you know that you will be the chance of you getting while preparing for the interview. And I'm going to give you sample answers, and in that I'll share you how this star method can be utilized. Now, the question is, tell me about a time when you led a challenging project. What was it and how did you manage it? Okay. So, this is completely based on a question that I received when I started off, like my first interview question. So, during that time, my experience was into software testing, so I had some or the other way to tell them. So let's say how we can like mention this, right? So the situation you're going to give that storytelling over here. Now the situation is, the first project that springs to my mind is the launch of a new product when I was working in this particular company. So I was the team's project manager that oversaw the beta launch, planning and execution. You have mentioned the task also. Now you're going to give a lot of emphasis on action. So make sure when you're drafting your answers, or when you're preparing the answers for your question, you give a lot of emphasis on the actions that you have performed in the previous experiences. The action, how do you do that? I expertly manage the manufacturing team, the test engineers, and design engineers. Since I'm an expert with Excel and our project management software, I was able to redesign the tools to organize the project and a timetable that kept everyone on track with their task. This process is generally difficult, but how did I do it? We completed the race ahead of schedule and beta was released 2 days earlier than anticipated. So I felt incredibly pleased with my work as a consequence, and my manager was ecstatic. So you don't really have to you use a lot of words like this, but make sure to have like at least one sentence on the situation, and one sentence on the task that you have performed, and 1 or 2 sentences on how you the action plan that you have done for this particular problem statement, and one sentence on the result. So you don't have to write the entire sentence also while preparing, just have a bullet points. So like again, you have a lot of stories in your mind when you go for the interview. Now, another question. Now, why I want you to have this particular look on this particular action is answer is I have clubbed the situation and task together here. Okay, and action and result separately. So, tell me about a time you supported a coworker who was struggling. So I am someone who is very extrovert. Okay, so I enjoy seeing my coworkers succeed and will help them whenever possible. So one way that I support my coworker is to help them keep organized by making suggestions on new tool that I have discovered. So this was the situation and also task. Now, what is the I mean, like, this was just a story. Then now I'm gonna give the situation and task. Like, I had one coworker with a brand new smartphone, and she wasn't sure of all the ways it could be utilized to make her day better. Okay, so what did I do? I spent my lunch hours helping her set it up, and after that the result was she was golden after that, right? So like, you really don't need a lot of, how I manage those projects, what I did. That you don't have to have only the project management office experience to talk about. You can talk about, personal experience that are there, like this, also mentioned in the answers when you come up with. Now, another question is, how do you handle a situation where your supervisor does not properly communicate information to you? Right. So, this is something very common that happens, right? Like, maybe they might think that they don't need you to micromanage things, so they don't want you to tell everything and everything. And you don't have feel like, going and asking for each of the minute details. So, how do you overcome such situation? This is like a very common question that can come. Now, I worked in a busy production environment where facts missed cause major problems. Okay. So I recommend to my supervisor that we have a team huddle every morning, like a stand-up call. And at the end of each shift, just for 5 minutes, so that I could ensure we were all in the same page. This solution actually helped us a great deal. So is it like a big thing? No, it's not. But the way you portray your answers to each of these questions that is coming will actually give you a lot of advantage of cracking the interview. Now, another question is, can you describe a time when you made a difficult decision? So this is completely for any beginners. Okay. So let's say when I was in college, I worked on a team project with a small group. For our last meeting, one team member didn't show up. Okay. So we still had to put the finishing touches on our project, and we were unable to contact the missing individual. So the team and I discussed our options, and we decided that waiting might only waste what little time we had left. So what we did, we focused on our assigned work, and once we finished, I suggested we split up the missing individuals assignment among ourselves. We finished the project together and turn it in the next day. So it's like, how you do a risk management also. So you don't, like, you are telling how you managed, how you made a difficult decision. Also, you are telling how do you manage a risk that has come up with also, right? So when you, now I'm gonna tell you how you have to plan your scenario. So let's say you have an interview coming up next week. So you need to be sure of, like, come up with 3 to 5 scenarios, irrespective of your job description, right? Like, let's say in your job description there are some keywords which mentions about leadership, or supporting a small team, or working under a project manager, all those things, right? So make sure to have different scenarios on your hand when you go for the interview. So this is like a very basic set of things. So you need to have a scenario where you have been in a leadership position, you have you as a volunteer, also a member of a small team, how did you contribute, as a member of a big team, how did you contribute, as someone supporting our colleague, as someone helping the client. So these are like very small scenarios, but I will give you a lot of scenarios via email after the workshop is done, so that you can prepare. So that you don't run out of scenarios once you get the interview calls. Now, let's say What if you have zero experience in project management, right? You have already, let's say Chandni, I know Chandni has been working as a customer support executive, right? So if you have that particular experience but you don't have a project management experience, how do you make sure that these experiences are being counted in your interview or even in your resume? I'll just walk you through that. So first thing is transferable skills. So see, project management is one thing that everyone has been doing, okay? No matter, like, from the school days we have been doing it, our teachers have been doing it, parents have been doing, like, everyone on a personal scale, personal note or a professional note, we all manage projects, but it's just that we don't know it's we call it professionally as project management. So now let me talk to you about transferable skills. So, what are transferable skills? It's basically nothing but the job that you're performing right now will be needing a set of skills, and these skills can be required while managing the projects also. So that is when you say, like, the current skills that you have right now can be used as transferable skills for the for the position that you're looking as a project manager, right? Now, so first thing, how do you identify the transferable skills? So for that, what you need to do is list the skills and experiences that you have gained. Okay, right now, let's say you are into customer support. So in the customer support area, what are the different skills and experiences that you have gained? Make a list of it. So for example, you might be good at communication. You might be good at, your time management or client management, or even, organization skills, documentation, teamwork, adaptability. So make a list of all the skills. Okay. Now, what I want you to do is identify which of the skills are transferable to project management. So, for example, communication, right? So, when it comes to communication, having, as I mentioned earlier, right, I did give you the essential skills that are required for project management. In that, we had active listening, also communication. So, the communication that you had in the customer support can act as a transferable skills for active listening, as well as communication, effective communication when it comes to project management. So just have that mapping done, right? The skill sets that I have right now and the skill set that is being demanded in my job description or in the project management industry. Now the next thing is create a skills matrix. So what is a skills matrix like? It's like basically a chart that aligns you with the transferable skills with key skills required for project management. Now you already have identified, right, what are the skills that you have right now and what are the skills that you require for uh, transitioning into project management field. Now we are gonna give some amount of like maybe like ranking for all these skills, maybe out of 5 or 10, and understand how these skills are gonna effect give you a maximum potential when you're gonna manage the projects. Don't think of just cracking the interview, but think of the bigger picture. Think of how these particular skills that right now I possess are gonna help me when I start managing the projects on my own from scratch to delivering the project. So what, do I miss on something? If I do, go for it and learn more on that and come back and add it, right? You need to make sure that all the skills are also there in the resume. So craft a skills based resume. So if you don't have a skills base, like, we always say the project or like the career objective, right? Then we have the experience section, education section, all right. But you need to make sure if to have a skill set in your resume. So when I say skill set, you have, proper basic, giving your heading on skills, and then point give, like maybe pointers of 10 to 15 skills, max 10 to 15 skills to be there in the resume. This actually gives the chances of you getting shortlisted for the interview too. Now, volunteer for project related tasks. Now, why do I say volunteer? So let's say right now you're working as a customer support or, business operations uh, executive. So try to shadow your project manager. Like, you'll be having a manager, suppose. Ask him to give maybe like one or two a task that he needs to perform. Maybe like, in customer support, they might need to send out a weekly status call, status report to the client, or maybe like, bi-weekly meeting needs to be done. What you can do is go to your manager and talk to him and tell them that, I can just go ahead and, make a template and say, give it to you. You can just create, process the data and put it in the template and send it to the client. You can do that. Or what you can do was, that is how you help with the documentation, and your documentation skills will also be up when it comes to project management skills. And other thing what you can do is go to the meetings and write meeting notes on behalf of him. What happens when you write meeting notes is you get a bigger picture of what is happening, and rather than just being silent listener. Like when I say silent listener, like not even paying attention to the what is happening in the meeting, right? So this will also enhance your project management skills, right? So these are different ways. Or also what you can do is try to take it up internships if you have time, or maybe like go for volunteering works also. This so first how I got my first experience, right? Like first project management job is, I also didn't had any project management experience, but I did had 1 month volunteership done, and in that volunteer period, right, I did create a project for that particular NGO, and I had a proper project plan laid out for the 6 months for them, and I really got a lot of exposure into planning the project, managing the risk and all those things, and I was able to communicate all this experience to the first job interview which I had for the project management. So you really don't require a lot of experience to get into project management. Neither you need to have a lot of technical skills, but make sure to have a keen knowledge, or like be very observable when it comes to things, and be very aware of what is happening around you. Ask, shadow your project manager, do volunteering ship. All this are gonna help you to give a lot of experience when it comes to project management. Now, coming to the brownie session. Now, we did go through what are the things that you need to look for. Like how do you have to do the research when it comes to interview preparation? How do you have to do the research when it comes to interview preparation? Now, let's say this is the brownie session. Okay, for any interview. Now, all the research that you have done, now is the time for you to put it into practice. They'll ask you like, do you have any question for me? Never say no. First thing, understand what first question that you can ask is, what are your expectation for me in this role? So as I mentioned, right, interview is like completely conversation. So towards the like end of the interview, you will also understand like how is the interviewer going on, like the chances of you converting to that particular person is high or low. You'll also get to know that vibe towards the end. So what I want you to do is make sure that you have a set of 2 3 questions ready when you go for the interview. So one question can be from a part of, the job related one. One can be, if you had a chance to look into their interviewer's profile, have a question from his profile, like, something from his experience, or any awards he's received, just ask about that. Or if, let's say, you have no idea about, from you didn't get anything from internet about him, just simply ask, what is the most favorite part of working here, right? You can ask about that and understand. Also, you can just blindly, I did ask this once, you can just blindly go ahead and ask, what is the one thing that you enjoy after work? So why this question helps is, you'll understand if they are completely focused on only working for the company, or do they have a life after work. This actually helps you to filter the company itself out, whether you need to go to the company or not, right? So these are just 6 questions. I'm just keeping it over here just for your interest. If you don't get any other questions, only then use it. Or else make sure that you have done the 100% of your research and have at least 3 questions from your part to ask the interviewer. So as I mentioned, the first question can be on the role, second question can be on the interviewer, and third question can be either on the company or from something happening from the industry. Make sure to have these three questions, but don't go over and ask a lot of questions. Just keep it only to one, right? Now, I wanted to just go through this also because I see a lot of people just applying only for project coordinator and not very aware of other, roles that are there when it comes to entry level or managerial roles. Now I just have, please do have a look on this. So let me just quickly share I mean, like, most of you will be aware of, the coordinator roles. PMO analyst, PMO. Okay, let me just give you. PMO analyst is nothing but, as I mentioned, project management office, right? So most of the companies, like be it startup or the large organizations, they really need to set a process for how the projects needs to be managed. So that is how, where the project management office comes into picture. So they really have the they need to know whether the project that the company has taken can be given to which set of people, like do the skill assessment and prioritize which project needs to be done on the first and what comes next. So they, on an organization level, PMOs does really play a lot of a bigger picture role. Now, being an analyst over there gives you an advantage of having a vision on the bigger picture, but doing it for different projects also. So it's basically having the bigger picture. You can see the bigger picture, but you're managing the different projects in the lower level. Now, project coordinators, like you have different project managers. You are being like a assistant to the project coordinators. You have to have the documentation skills. You need to track the project on behalf of your project managers. All those, so in and around, all of them do the same. And I want you to know this pursuits coordinator, because I got a question with respect to the pursuits coordinator. So how does that particular role differ? And this is something that has been marketed a lot in the Ernst and EY. Now let me just tell you what does a pursuits coordinator do. So they really comes on the phase of a pre-sales. So they are involved in the process of identifying and pursuing a potential client or the project. So let's say, like, we all have a marketing team, right? So all in a marketing team, this particular pursuit coordinator will majorly play a role on the marketing team, and they will be assessing the potential clients that are there coming, and then identify the process how they need to be converted and all those things. And also they, more than the documentation skill that are required, right, they need to have a lot of research analysis and also competitor analysis. So it's basically the pre-sales, right? So they have to make sure who are the different clients that are there, and what are the competitors and how do they differ, what are their pitches, and what are the different bids proposals that have come. So basically, a pre-sales is what the pursuits coordinator look up to. And I hope the other all other managerial roles are also the same, and the coordinator roles are also the same. Yeah. Now let me quickly go to the after interview. What happens after interview? Okay, so you're done. You have already prepared. You give your interview. You came back. So the moment you came back, done with the, even if it's virtual, just moment you have clicked on the end button, make sure to send a thank you email note to them. Right now, let me tell you one experience. So I was being last year. I had given an interview for business analyst, even though I was not very enthusiastic about being a BA, because I was completely looking for project management role. Now, when I was having the conversation with that particular person, that was an Australian company. So I told them, I was very blunt on their face that I applied for this role just because I see that there is a potential of having a project management opening over here. And I really would like to pitch in myself for that and not a BA role. So towards the end, once my interview was done, I did send them a thank you email, and also kept a note, just if you are interested in starting a PM role, just let me know. I'll be happy to or come over there than be. So towards the end, they Once all the set of interviews are done, they had two people shortlisted, and one was completely on the BA, another one for me. So they came back and told me that just because, not just because I performed well on the interview, just because I was reassuring again and sending them a thank you note and telling them that, I'm interested in the project management position, they were really okay to offer me the position, even though that was not something that was there in the market for that particular company. Now, that is the reason I told you this is because make sure that you send the thank you email. Like, it's like an acknowledging the effort that the interviewer or the HR or the hiring team has done from their side, for to give that much of time for from their particular schedule to us to hear us out, and then converting us or not converting, it's up to them, right? So make sure to send them the thank you note. It hardly takes, if possible, have a template and just have send it across once it's done. Now, another exercise that I want you to do, like, this is not to send them, but have an Excel sheet. Okay, so once your interview is completed, I want you to write down the person you have met, the questions that you have discussed. Maybe you don't remember all the questions, that is completely okay. At least 3 to 5 of them. Okay, and then give a feedback of out of 5 or out of 10, how did you perform. Okay, now once this is done, like over the time period, like once you're done, maybe like after 10 to 15 interviews, you'll tend to see a trend of what are the questions that are asked. And once that, like, after 1 year or 2 year, you'll understand how you need to prepare better for the interviewers. You don't need to go through a lot of 50, 60 PDFs and prepare a lot of scenarios, but maybe having like 5 to 10 scenarios in your hand handy enough, you will be able to tweak a little bit here and there and use the same scenario for different questions that are going to have come to you, right? So just have an Excel sheet on all these particular things also. Okay, so with that, I'm coming to the last slide. So thank you for hearing me out all those times. So I'll just quickly go to the questions that were asked, and I hope I have answered everything. If not, I am completely okay to take this time to ask any questions that you guys have. Let me quickly go through the chat. So yeah, how to identify good companies and projects. As I mentioned, the research is the in the research phase. Make sure to have all those companies about vision, mission, all those things, and see if those align with your personal goals or not, and then you can understand that. Now, pursuit coordination I did cover, and how to showcase our resume with zero project experience. So I hope that has been covered, like in the project management. Make sure to have in the resume you have a separate skills section, because and have at least 10 to 15 skills listed over there with respect to the resume that you are preparing. And also have, if possible, get some volunteership or even a shadowing experience so that you can write it over there. And then what important topics I think I just walk you through the important topics also in one of the slides. Now, how to showcase an existing skill set. Yeah, I think that is where the transferable skills did come into the picture. So yeah, this is what I had. So any more questions that need to be addressed, or are we clear here?
Mary, thank you so much for explaining in detail. I have one question actually.
Yes.
See, now as I don't have any project related experience, as I told, is it like first we have to get a project coordinator role job, then apply for PMP exam, or like apply for PMP exam and get into the project management jobs? because many people says that if you have the certification, it's easy for you to get job. So I'm like I'm so confused because I don't know anything. Getting certification I might pass, but like working wise we should know something like how things work, how we have to work, right? I just
Yes.
wanted to confirm from your end on this.
Sure, sure. So I'll tell you from my experience. I didn't had a
Yeah, sure.
PMP certification when I started out my project management experience. Okay. So as
Okay.
I mentioned, I just had an MBA and whatever volunteership, right? I the mention I volunteer experience is the only thing, that 1 month experience, and internship also I had, like the MBA internship was also on the project management side. So I had maybe like barely 3 months of experience. That's it, nothing more than that, which actually helped me crack the first interview. So, do you really need a PMP certification to get into project management? You don't need to. But as I mentioned, Chandni, you do have a lot of experience in the customer support right now, correct?
Yeah,
So,
correct.
try to use those particular experiences into, use them as a transferable skills and create a resume in a such a way that you can get into a maybe a project coordinator role or even a PMO analyst role. Now, you do you have can you get into a project manager role all of a sudden, like a transition wise? It's questionable. It completely depends on how you showcase yourself in the interview panel. That is how it depends. So if
Correct.
so that is like very dependable factor. There are so many things with respect to that, but getting into a project coordinator is very easy for you, or even a PMO analyst is something that you can doable right away also, because it
Okay.
really doesn't require a lot of experience. Now, coming to the certification part, I would actually suggest you to get some experience and then get the PMP. Why? Because uh, earlier the PMP was used to have the certification was in a way where you need to just study everything, learn the theory, go to the exam, you'll pass. Now it's not the condition. Now the country, like now it's like you need to know why the agile is not being used when the waterfall is used, why the both are used together. There are so many questions that comes in that way, right? So you need to have some experience, maybe like less than, like they say 3 years of experience is mandatory when it comes to PMP. So I would say, like like 3 years of experience of managing the project, or like handling the projects. If you know have it, then go ahead and go for the certification, and because it will help you to relate with things that you are learning. So whatever you're
Yeah.
learning with respect to project management, you'll be able to relate it when you have the experiences also in your face. Like for the timing, if you really are looking for a certification, you can go ahead and do CAPM, Certified Associate in Project Management. Uh,
Okay.
but how many years of experience do you have in customer support right now?
It's like overall 5 years. It both customer support and business operations since last 2 years I'm working. It's overall 5 years I have.
Great. Great. Then what you can do is, like, if you're not interested in switching the company right away, as I mentioned, right, just try to shadow your manager and get some experience, like what are the things that they do, and try to understand that, and then go ahead and apply for PMP after 1 year, because you have
Yeah.
been working in the I mean, like managing projects or in operations field for quite
Yeah.
some time now, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Even I thought the same actually to do that. First, get some experience and then apply for the certification. And other thing, like, is it like, are you following? We have to follow some kind of syllabus, or we can just go through the any YouTube videos in order to learn? Because I have seen this Pimbak, I am so clueless. I'm not understanding anything, like where to start, where I should end up here, how to follow.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
can you help us with that?
Yeah, 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 sure. So for PMP, you don't really have to learn the entire PIM book.
Okay.
So I'll tell you, there is a exam content outline, basically the syllabus which we have in our universities, right? So
Okay.
the entire exam happens in three sets. Like you have in the syllabus, like the process, then you have the people, and then the business environment. So the percentage, it actually differs, but these are the three sets of things that are there in the exam. Now there are a lot of tasks involved in these three sets, you need to be aware of what are the tasks that they are talking in the exam content outline. And
Okay.
for this, rather than reading the PIM book, I would actually suggest you to go ahead and take a Udemy course of, there
Okay.
are so many Udemy courses, maybe Andrew Ramdayal or Joseph Philip. So you can
Mhm.
just go ahead and take one of the Udemy courses and understand the syllabus overall, and
Okay.
then take some practice mocks. Okay, so that would
Okay.
give you a fair understanding of how the exam is, and you can just go ahead and proceed with the examination. Like it's not like rocket science, but you can do it.
Oh, okay, okay, sure. I think from my end, I have only such questions, but thank you for answering and helping me on this.
No issues. I just hope the questions were answered, whatever queries that you had with respect to the interview. So, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So clear. Thank you.
no problem. So, yeah, thank you so much for joining in.
No
Um,
problem. Other thing, last one, like, will you be sharing this recording and any PPT document for
Okay,
us?
I am planning to, send across two resources which I have mentioned. So one is on the list of questions or scenarios that you can prepare. Another one is basically a checklist of,
Okay.
like pre-interview, post-interview, during interview, what you need to do. So these are the two PDFs that I'm planning to, but it's still in the, I haven't completed. I couldn't complete it because last month I was not very well. So I will complete it and send it to you because I do have the mail IDs of all the participants. So I'll be
Okay.
sending it to your mail IDs once it's done. And recording, it might take some time. So I'm
Sure,
planning to send
sure.
it all together.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, fine. Thanks a lot, Mary.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining in.
No problem. Bye.